Hi guys, welcome back. So a massive win for Scotland, 15-13 against Australia. Not a classic, both sides making a fair few errors, not really stringing together as much play as they'd have wanted, but any game involving Scotland, we know the balls can be thrown around, and same with Australia. So when you combine those two, it was always going to be exciting. Now in this report, I'm just trying to make the reports a bit more 50-50 on kind of commentary and then analysis as well. It's a hard balance to achieve, but keep the feedback coming. It's easy to get carried away and go through everything that happens, so I'm trying to steer away from that a bit, but still go through kind of the feel of what happened in the game and then also the analysis as well. So let's get into this game. Immediately from the off, we knew this ball was going to be thrown around. They were doing it straight away. You know, a little bit of clearing kicks from their own lines, especially Australia, but still trying the continuity as well. But it's loose straight from the off. Plenty of errors, not really getting the phases together. Aussie line speed was good, there is space in behind, and both sides used little chip kicks after a few phases to try and exploit it, but neither of them really managed to. Australia get their first chance at points after about 5 minutes, but it is one of the worst kicks you will see from O'Connor, who didn't have a great game. A full-on slice shank, not a good start. Scotland making a note early on, pulling out the trick plays for the line-out straight away. They did 2 in a row and then another one over the top a little bit later. Definitely very wary / scared of the height of Rodder and Arnold. So they try to stay away from them, and when they did go to your more classic line-out, definitely Australia disrupted, so that was a clear tactic there. And on 11 minutes as well, making the note that both sides are trying to take quick tap penalties, maybe foolishly at times, but they're really trying things, dinks in behind. It's like this game's on amphetamines. It really is crazy, kind of chaos end-to-end stuff. Exciting, but you're trying to make some order of the game, and a lot of the time you just can't. We finally get the first real breakthrough of the game, 15 minutes in. Hogg bounces off Paisami and then manages to burst up the left. Eventually they free Van der Merwe, who got into the game a bit more as it went on. They get some penalties, goes to a 5-metre line out, but it's a Russell error that really mucks them up and they go all the way back down the other end. That's the kind of thing we saw with errors from both sides when they were in good positions. 5 minutes later, we see Russell offloading on the gain line. He really attacks flat, which is a real bonus to Scotland's attack. You have to watch him like a hawk. A couple of good offloads out of the tackle. Again, get up to 5 metres out with some line outs, some penalties for them as well. They go for a real clever shifting drive. Australia completely stand off. What a massive tactical error. They don't try and compete at all, either in the air or on the ground. They just stand there. Scotland managed to keep the ball at the front of the maul for long enough so it's not, a blocking offence, and they pile over to try to Watson in the end. So big blow, first blow there to Scotland, 7-0. And really making the comparison after this between Russell and O'Connor. Russell playing flat, running at the attack, O'Connor playing deep. And it carried on through the game, and it got worse, I think, into the second half. O'Connor incredibly deep, a lot of the time just catching the ball and passing it on, and he's standing 15-20 metres behind the gain line anyway. Surely, can that be the plan? Let me know if you think that was the plan. It was just O'Connor not taking the ball to the line. Surely Cooper wouldn't have done that. But let's talk about Cooper briefly whilst I mentioned him. Really weird stuff, didn't like it at all. His club seems like it's putting pressure on him not to play in the international window, and he had to go home, not even, for high quality games for pre-season. It's not good at all, but then Australia are organising games outside of the window. Do not like it. I need to sort that out. If it's in the international window, you release your players. If it's not, you don't. It's a bit of a mess. I don't like that at all. But anyway, they suffered with not having Cooper there. I think they left Lolosio at home. I don't know if they can get him on the plane. I'm sure they can't. But yeah, problems there, I think, at fly half. Both sides, again, making a point here. As mad as a box of frogs, but at the moment the Scots have their frogs hopping in the same direction a bit more than Australia. They're starting to eke out a bit of scrum dominance. I think it was more technical scrum dominance than absolutely destroying the Australian scrum. Australians do get some penalties, more from that kind of power dominance, but Scotland will be certainly happy with their scrummaging. And both sevens are really to the fore because the game's so loose and the ball's whizzing around. There are chances for the Jackals, and Hooper and Watson really impressive in their carries and also in their Jackals. Then, before half-time, we go to a period where Australia start to get on top. Now, as I predicted, they're preferring the little dink in behind, and then Australia makes some really good round-the-corner carries at speed, and when they ran fairly direct, Australia created a lot of problems. They work the space for a right out wide, but they get in trouble for that rucking beyond penalty where you ruck and you keep hold of the player, which is something that some Welsh fans fed back to me that South Africa were doing a lot in their game, which they felt didn't get pinged, but it does at this point. So, Australia don't score there, which is a shame. So they have this period where they probably should score, and the height of the Australian line out is giving them great off-the-top ball on their own line out, but they still can't unpick that Scottish lock, and some very sloppy passing from them really doesn't help, and some good defence from Scotland as well. But then we get a try. Is it individual brilliance from Hooper? Squirms over from a pick and go. He is good in those situations despite being fairly small, but it's not. Alaalatoa makes head contact just with his arm. It's a yellow, but it's a bit of a soft yellow. I'd like to know your opinions there. I mean, I would say he's trying to ruck a guy out, but the guy's not really in the ruck. He's just lying on the ruck. He's not really affecting it. So 50-50, but by the interpretation as it is now, it is a yellow, so that's a real shame. But even though they're down to 14 men, they are finishing this second half really strongly, and they get a penalty and kick it 7-3, so they get something for that dominance. So half-time 7-3, it's pretty even, not the highest quality, really anyone's game. Into the second half, and Scotland continue to try and move this ball. They get a few phases going, it looks really good, but then they make the error, so that's not a great start for them. Unfortunately, we get Tupou who gets a head knock accidentally from Johnson, who goes off. That was quite a big blow for Australia because physically they probably had the bigger forwards, and he was one of those that had to go off. I don't know if he's going to be okay for the England game. Hopefully he will be for Australia's sake. But then Australia get their try, and it's not from throwing the ball around. Like I said, Australia do make yards when they carry hard. They didn't do it a lot, but on this play they did. I think it's Parise taking it up really hard up the middle. Then I think they swing back to the right, and Leota hits a huge line, absolutely flies over. They celebrate, go crazy, as they should. A man down as well as it is. 7-10, so they take the lead. And you'd think maybe that is the format which they should go through, hitting hard lines before they go wide, but they didn't do that enough. And it's actually Scotland next to string their phases together, that expansive phases, get right up to the line. But exactly what happened in this game, Matt Fagerson this time spills the ball when really Scotland should score. Maybe sometimes they do need to slow it down and churn through a few more phases when they're so close to the line, but they don't. And Scotland's handling is just letting them down at that last minute. And then I'm making a little note here. Roman Poit is making me laugh. It's his last test. He's trying to enjoy it. He's high-fiving Nick White, and later on he high-fives the touch judge. So he's having a great time at least. So that's good for him. Well, Skelton comes on, an absolute monster. Like I said, Australia have changed their selection policy, so you've got the likes of Cooper coming in, Skelton, Arnold. Should really help them in this game. It didn't, having those big lads back. They didn't maximise their bulk, but in later games, hopefully they will. One of their big lads, power lads, Pasami, puts in an awesome hit and then a jackal. And Australia just feel like they're getting the physical edge. But again, they don't make it tell in this game. But then another bit of genius from Russell. This time with a huge spiral 50-22, which of course gives them the line out back as well. They get through multiple phases finally. They need to be a bit more direct. They're just forcing it. But they stay putting the Australians under pressure, and the Australians are running out of props as well, which doesn't help. And finally, just Ashman sneaks in the corner. Nice finish, but here's a fantastic tackle as well from Parise, who nearly smacks him a couple of metres into touch, but Ashman just gets it grounded. So 12-10, brilliant try. Ashman is an impressive athlete, worth sticking with, I think. They are very low on hookers, so they might as well anyway. But Scotland back ahead. 20 minutes to go. They're starting to pop a little bit. We get Van der Merwe trying to get into the game with his power, which does help. But good turnovers from Australia. Good defence still stopping them. They can't get past those 3 or 4 phases. It is even. 2 points in it. And Australia then go ahead. Good persistent phases from Australia, good D from Scotland, and they are unlucky, I think, to concede the penalty in front of the post. So that's 12-13, and Australia bring on McDermott, Beale. Sounds like it could be a dangerous impact subs to have come on. Scotland still edging that technical battle, which is helping them. And it's a lovely kick off one of those penalties from Russell, 15-13. And it's so close, a battle of the nerves. Making a note again here that O'Connor's just so deep. It's so painful to watch. As an Australian fan, if you are one of those, let me know what you thought of that. I thought it was super poor, to be honest. They're still getting good line-out ball from that height in the line-out, but they can't make it pay because they're passing so deep. And then the last 8 minutes or so, the Scottish forwards really step up. Big hold-up tackles from Scotland. They manhandle Beale one of those times like a rag doll. That was embarrassing there for him. And Scotland look like they're starting to get that dominance physically, edging towards a victory. It feels like. They make a sub, which is really fascinating. Hastings going to 10. They move Russell to 12. Goodness me, they're not going conservative here, just trying to eke out the game. And they're whizzing the ball around. Russell goes for some crazy crossfield kick like he does. Blasts it a good 30 metres too far. But that's just Russell. Absolute brilliance with some errors. I think he gave away an interception and stuff like that, albeit on advantage. But he's exciting, absolutely. The Australian line-out and maul is good, and they do have some chances here to edge up the pitch. They get a penalty, just an awful miss kick to touch from O'Connor. I think it's O'Connor, let me know if it's not. Looks like he could have blown the win, and it really is that way in the end. Their playmakers just not good enough today. With a couple of minutes to go, Scotland finally realise it's time to play it slow and not wing the ball around everywhere. They do slow it down nicely, see the game out very tidily, celebrate at the end, 15-13. Fantastic win for Scotland and Northern Hemisphere rugby, really. They definitely deserved it. Definitely not their best game, but better than Australia, which was definitely one of their worst games I've seen for a long time. Like I said, O'Connor really struggled there. They couldn't string their phases together, although, the forwards did look strong at times. The centres, I thought, punched pretty hard, but they couldn't, string it together, so don't deserve to win. Going into the England game, not great for them, but they should expect to play a lot better next time around. So guys, let me know what you think of that game. Hopefully I've given a good kind of 50-50 of analysis and an impression of how the game went. So give me some feedback on that, and I will catch you guys next time.